Okay, welcome to the iPad podcast. This is Lex at maxfuture.com, and today is July 24th, Sunday, a very hot day, and there's a lot of iPad news to discuss. So this is a chit-chat-free podcast that also comes out in a video version that's found on Blip TV, YouTube, and under Apple Things on the iTunes Store. So let's get to it. There's a lot of interesting iPad stuff to discuss, apps, iPad-related news, all sorts of stuff. So let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing we should talk about is that Apple had tremendous earnings this quarter ending June 30th, and the information came out on July 20th when Apple released its third quarter financial results and discussed, the details of it. Now, here's the big news. Apple had really epic revenue. And the revenue was so great that its profit for the quarter was something like over $7 billion. It was the most successful quarter ever. And I discussed it on my Apple podcast show. But let's talk about some things that were sort of iPad related in that result. One thing that Apple said in its conference call after the information came out, they have whenever they come out with financial results, like most companies, Apple does a conference call with analysts. And in a conference call, Apple confirmed that in this quarter, Apple sold more iPads than Macintoshes. So the iPad is now, a better seller than all Macs that Apple sells. And Apple sells a lot of Macs. MacBook Pros, MacBook Airs, Mac Minis, Mac Pros, iMacs. And so the iPad is a bigger seller. Now the iPad is cheaper. The cheapest iPad is like about $500. And the most expensive is like, $850 or something like that. Now the iPad is sold, according to the stats, in 64 countries around the world. And Apple said that it sold every iPad that it could make in this last quarter. So that's pretty impressive. The other thing about the iPad sales, Tim Cook said that the iPad 2 sales were an absolute frenzy. So the iPad is really, really, a key part of Apple's revenue. And Cook also said Apple has been able to ramp up iPad production to the point where they can meet demand in several countries now, though he didn't say which ones. So in terms of its competitor Google, Cook made the point for Apple that if you look at all the iOS devices, that is the iPad, the iPhone, the iPod Touch, Apple has 222 million people or users out there of those devices. So it's really big. And in terms of a competition to the iPad, Cook took a shot at app supplies for other tablets, noting there were only, quote, hundreds of them on other devices compared to over 100,000 iPad-specific apps. And he said, quote, the other tablets don't seem to be getting any traction to speak of. So that's pretty impressive. Now, he did say that the iPad is cannibalizing Macs to some degree. What that means, cannibalizing, is that, but if the iPad didn't exist, there'd be some more Mac sales. But he also basically says that the iPad is more cannibalizing Windows computers. So, and I think that totally makes sense. If you think about it, there are going to be some people who decide they're not going to get a Windows computer or even a Macintosh and decide all they need is an iPad too. Now, that's not going to be a computer power user, but it might just be someone who's a light, who just wants to do web surfing, play games, get their email, read a book, and they don't need a computer for any other thing. So that's an important sign. So overall, these financial results were just tremendous, And it looks like the iPad has played a big part of that. Okay, so, one of the problems I think anybody has competing with the iPad is that it's not a really even playing field. And here's why. Apple just has so many things going for it in selling the iPad. Not only is it just a fantastic hardware device at a great price that you can get for starting at $500, but obviously there's this huge ecosystem of apps, 100,000 iPad-specific apps, and then of course hundreds and hundreds of thousands of iPhone apps that'll play on the iPad. But it's also how they sell it, because you can go into any Apple store, and there's lots of them, and in addition to Apple Store, other places. But frankly, Apple stores know how to sell Apple devices. You go into an Apple store, and you can touch and play with the iPad. Now, today, I was in a Costco, and two things caught my eye. There's like a technology section of the Costco, and I was attracted. There were two tablets for sale. One is something called the Acer Iconia 10.1-inch 32 gigabyte Wi-Fi tablet with case that was selling for $479.99, and also the HP TouchPad 9.7 inches WebOS tablet. Now here's the thing. There was only one display model of each of these devices, and the HP TouchPad was locked up in this big plastic case, so you couldn't touch it, you couldn't play with it, you couldn't do anything with it, and there was no guy around to answer any questions. And why would you buy this HP TouchPad? You can't even play with it to see how responsive the screen is. Now the Acer Iconia, it was also locked up and bolted down in some sort of case, but you could play with it. And, so I sort of played around with it, and I guess it runs Honeycomb, which is the Google Android, the Android operating system. But I got to tell you, I was very disappointed with this Acer touchpad. I shot some video, so you'll see some video if you're looking at the video version of this. So I shot some video, of me using this Acer Android device. And the thing is, okay, for example, I played Angry Birds. And Angry Birds, I don't know, it just wasn't as responsive. There's something kind of buggy about the Android operating system. It just wasn't as responsive. The whole experience was kind of not as crisp and clean as the iPad. So the software just seemed, I don't know, mushy, and the touchpad, the touch sensation was not as responsive. For example, in Angry Bird, it just didn't feel that responsive. So I don't know, I just didn't find it that compelling. So even the way the device rotated, this Acer device rotated, it wasn't crisp, it wasn't clean. And also just the navigation buttons, they weren't sort of intuitive where you'd put them. I managed to, make my way around it, but I just found the experience, kind of half-baked. I mean, look, this device, if it had come out, before the iPad ever existed, might be compelling, but this Honeycomb Acer device, I don't know, just seemed very half-baked. So again, the challenge is, how do you compare this to the iPad? It just seems like a much lesser device. So I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. So stay away from these competitors. Okay, so the other big news this week was that Apple released Line for the Mac operating system, which is the new operating system for Macintoshes. Now, why should you care if you are, if this is an iPad show, why should we care? Well, we should care because what's going on is Apple is making the operating system of the iPad and Macintosh come closer together. And what this could mean in the future, these devices may merge. That's my prediction. Now, the New York Times on July 20th had an interesting article from David Pogue. It was called "Upgrading to Lion Means Embracing the iPad." And his point is that Apple is taking the lessons learned from the iPad simplicity and operating system and putting them in the Macintosh. So this is how he starts off his article. He says, "It must be excruciating to design a new version of an already mature operating system. How do you add enough new stuff to attract upgrade customers without junking up the works? And how do you revamp enough things to make the upgrade exciting without alienating people who don't like change?" And then he goes on to say, in Lion, Apple went with the, quote, shake things up philosophy, end quote. It follows an old Apple pattern of embracing what's cool and progressive and ruthlessly jettisoning what it considers antiquated. That's great if you love stuff that's cool and progressive, and not so great if you hate people moving your cheese. So, so the big thing is, Apple's making the Macintosh operating system more like the iPad. And in what way? Okay, so Apple's making, Lion more like the iPad in many different ways. But I think there's two fundamental ways that Apple's trying to make the operating system of the Macintosh more like the iPad. The first way is by building into the operating system the ability of every program, anything running there, to eventually run at full screen. Because think about it, on the iPad, when you launch an app, it takes over the whole screen. You don't see a dock, you don't see a file system, you don't see any other app in the background. You just see the app that you're working on. Now, Apple hasn't gone drastic on that on the Macintosh, but has given every window a button. In the right corner, let's look at this window. If I press the button, it goes to full screen. So if you're looking at the video screencast, I've got Safari running in the full screen. Now on a 27-inch iMac that I have, full screen is kind of excessive. But the point is, if you're on a smaller Macintosh, like an 11-inch Air, it is very iPad-like. So let's see other ways that Apple is doing this. Okay, so another way that Apple's trying to make the Mac operating system more like the iPad is the way that you look apps. Now, traditionally, you'd look in a folder structure, but Apple, in addition to folder structure, now has something called Launchpad. And here I am clicking on this icon for the Launchpad. When you launch it, basically the apps go like full screen, and you see pages of apps very similar to the iPad, and you can scroll right to left and go through the different windows. And so basically you see your app outlines, and just like on the iPad, you can create folders in this touch Launchpad, just like you do on the iPad, just by dragging the icon of one to another. So for example, I have these two black blaze icons. I'm just gonna drag them together, and I'm gonna call it black blaze. There we go. So that's another way that they're very similar. So what other ways? Well, actually, let's just talk about one more thing. Finally, a third way that Apple's making the Mac operating system more like the iPad is changing the scrolling direction when you use a touchpad with the Mac. Now remember, on an iPad, when you scroll with your fingers on, let's say, a web page, if you want to go down on a web page and see what's at the bottom of the web page, you push up with your fingers, because it's viewing the web page as if it's a real piece of paper. If you had a real piece of paper, you would push the paper up to bring the bottom of the paper up, let's say if it was on a roll. But in the old computing world, before this, when you had a mouse, you would use these bars or handlers on the side, and if you wanted to go to the bottom, you would drag your finger or drag the mouse to the bottom. So the default is unifying the direction of the scroll with the iPad. And if you go into System Preferences under Trackpad, under Scroll and Zoom, the first button is Scroll Direction Natural, Contents Track, Finger Movement. If you don't like it, if you want the old way, you do it like you uncheck it. So that's the third similarity. So again, why would you care about this if you have an iPad? Well, some of you may have iPads, have never had a Mac, but now, because the Mac is getting closer to how an iPad is, and if you're used to an iPad, you may think about getting a Mac. Let's say you know, the iPad is great, but you want to become more of a power user. Well, you might want to get a Mac. And so I'm suggesting to you that maybe you should get like a MacBook Air, because also announced on the 21st, the same day Line came out this week, Apple released new blazing fast MacBook Airs that also run on SSD hard drives like the iPad and are lickety fast. And they're very light. They're just a little heavier than the iPad, the 11-inch. And now that the operating system is closer to the iPad, it might drop people who like the iPad and have never used a Mac. So actually, I predict that MacBook Air sales could go up. Another one of Apple's competitors in the tablet space also seems to be retreating in terms of its competition with the iPad. A story came out, I read about this on product-reviews.net, that the success of the iPad is forcing RIM, which makes the BlackBerry, to cease BlackBerry PlayBook productions that are Wi-Fi only. And this actually is re-reporting a story by the Loop.com. And the story is that the Loop reports that RIM has responded to the rumor that was reported about it, saying that it is pure fiction, but is it? And according to a rumor that RIM may be no longer making the Wi-Fi only version of the PlayBook. Soon after that came out, RIM announced that it's going to come out with a 3G version. So, it could be that, the PlayBook is just not really selling very much, and people don't want to pay a lot of money for a Wi-Fi only PlayBook when, you don't have things like email only on it and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of setbacks for some of the iPad's competitors. Okay, let's go to apps and the iPad. So, a while back, Apple announced changes to the subscription service, and basically saying that, if anybody gonna sell something through subscription through an app, Apple's gonna take a 30% cut. Then Apple loosened the rules a little bit and said you could subscribe outside the app and not offer subscription in the app, and that way Apple will not take a cut. But you can't have a link in the app that takes you to a website. Well, already some apps are suffering the consequences. The Kobo app, which is a book reading library app where you can buy books from Kobo, that's the Kobo, announced that it will no longer approve. Well, you're going to be able to buy books from within the Kobo app. You're going to have to go to a website on your own, buy the books, and then they'll download and work on the Kobo. So, I read about this in ebook magazines, and basically, this is one of the changes that you're going to see happening, depending on how the people who make apps with subscriptions want to conform. Now, this article says in a blog post, Kobo said iOS users, quote, wishing to access their Kobo account, browse the Kobo store, and purchase books will now need to go to kobo.com, end quote. And the blog post also urged users to contact Apple about the changes. So, that's one of the changes that you're going to see. Now, if you work in the enterprise like I do, and you wish that eventually the iPad came to the enterprise and was supported by the IT people in your enterprise, it looks like, Apple is making inroads in the enterprise, and maybe that inroad into the enterprise will convince your enterprise IT people to support the iPad. And there is a story out that came out on July 22nd from International Business Times entitled, "Despite Limitations, Apple iPad Breaches the Enterprise Wall." And so this is good news, at least from my vantage point. It says in the article, Good Technology, a software company which specializes in multi-platform enterprise mobility, released a report titled iPads Drive iOS Dominance in the Enterprise. And in that report, it states that the overall net activation of iOS tablets outpaced Android smartphone activation 27.2%. And it goes on to say that the report examined the most popular device models and OS platforms that goods enterprise end users activated in the second quarter of 2011. And it said there that Apple accounted for 95% of all tablet activations. On the other hand, there's not really a lot of tablets out there to activate. I mean, what are people going to activate? The Motorola Zoom. Basically, it says here that the key to the enterprise adoption of the iPad was that it was designed to offer a rich multimedia experience, and was touted as a product that fills the area between the iPhone and the MacBook Air. So, basically, this article is saying that there are inroads being made by the iPad, but there are still limitations. It says here that one limitation includes the fact that the iPad is Wi-Fi centric device and has no wired Ethernet port to fall back on if Wi-Fi is unsatisfactory. It also goes on to say that since the iPad uses 802.11n technology, an enterprise has to factor in the possibility that this will not affect the performance of clients using legacy Wi-Fi technology. Then it goes on to discuss security, and it says that since the iPad was designed for the consumer, it lacks enterprise-grade security to cordon off corporate data. Also, there are no measures available to IT administrators to deploy push policy to lock the iPad in case it is stolen. And, I don't know how accurate this article is, because actually Apple has built in a lot of security, and it recently announced that it's going to allow bulk volume purchasing of iOS devices. So I actually think there's actually a lot of central control that Apple has built or is building for the enterprise with the iPad. So I think we are going to see more entities embracing the iPad in the enterprise. Now, the next operating system for the iPad is soon going to come upon us, and it's called iOS 5. And there's a newly revealed feature in iOS 5, which is in beta form right now, that 9to5Mac reported on, that is going to make it very exciting, not only for iPhone users, but for iPad users. And according to the article, there's going to be something known as Siri-like system navigation in iOS 5, which is called Assistant, and which uses device info to handle actions. So I don't know if you recall, but back in 2010, Apple purchased the software company Siri that made the Siri's app, and they also have a partnership with Nuance. And basically, it appears that that there's going to be all sorts of voice recognition assistance and text to voice assistance that's going to be built into iOS 5. So what 9to5Mac said is that Apple appears to be planning to take the fruit of their Siri purchase and fully integrate it into this fall's release of iOS 5. And it says, because these new features have yet to appear in iOS 5 on the iPhone or iPhone 3GS, Apple might be saving these features as an iPhone 5 exclusive. So, it is kind of exciting. I would like to see more voice control and things like voice recognition. It would be great if you could just dictate into, let's say, an email and have it just type out what you want to say. I mean, there is a Dragon app that works with the cloud and does voice recognition and translates it into a text. But I think Apple may surprise everybody with iOS 5 and have a deal with Nuance and the Siri technology in there for not only voice control, but voice translation into text. That would be very exciting. Now, yesterday, 9to5Mac noticed that Google Books, the app in the App Store that allows you to buy books and read books from Google in a book app has been removed from the iTunes App Store. And 9 to 5 Mac speculates that maybe Apple kicked out Google Books because it doesn't conform with its new subscription policy. In other words, if you're going to have an in-app purchase, Apple takes 30% of the cut. So, maybe that's why it's out. And according to 9 to 5 Mac, Google Books was just updated in April with a new 3D page turning. But, it doesn't appear to be there. Let's just quickly double check. No, I did a search and I couldn't find any Google Books app in there. So it does look like it's been pulled from the iTunes App Store. But what's interesting is also this week Google finally released a Google Plus app. But here's the crazy thing: it works on the iPhone, but not on the iPad. So supposedly, Google is working on a Google Plus app for the iPad, but it's not out yet. And I would like to see one, although Google Plus does seem to work just through the browser very well on the iPad. Okay, so now if you're into cases, and I know many of you are into cases like I am, I just realized there's a really great resource for really cheap cases. And the resource is basically a site that for years I've been buying like iPhone and computer accessories called MonoPrice. And MonoPrice.com is a great online store. And it's actually, I first learned about MonoPrice.com when I was buying HDMI cables for my computer or for a high definition TV, because in stores like Best Buy or stores like Circuit City when it was around, you would have to pay like a lot of money for an HDMI cable, and MonoPrice would sell you it for like $10 or $15. So I buy a lot of cables from MonoPrice. Well, it turns out MonoPrice makes iPad cases and iPad 2 cases. And so, they're a lot cheaper than what you would get from Apple. And, I haven't tested the quality of them, and they're not going to be the greatest quality, but MonoPrice has decent quality. But if you go to MonoPrice and just search iPad, you're going to find a whole bunch of cases. So, for example, I'm seeing something here called, the Premium TPU case in black for the iPad 2. And let's take a look at this. And basically the description, it says it's a thermoplastic polyurethane case. And it's a nice compromise between the flexibility of the soft silicone skin and the stronger form factor of the harder crystal. And so basically it's like this, rubberized plastic case. And it's only $3.94 for one of them. So that's really cheap. So if you're looking for a very cheap, effective way to protect the back of your iPad, this seems to be it. But they have other cases too, and this is not a commercial. I just am a fan of MonoPrice. So this is not a commercial. They're not paying me. I'm not doing anything with them. So they also have, they have these premium synthetic leather cases. So they're not real leather, but synthetic leather for the iPad. Here's one that's in black, and it's only $10.34. So that's pretty cheap. Let's see. Here are some images. If you're looking at the video version of this, and it's got a front flap, a back flap that clings to it. So, and here's the thing: it has what looks like the similar folding quality of the smart case from Apple. and it actually says it has a magnetic closing tab. Now, I think I read in one of the comments for these things that some people says it doesn't cling, it doesn't fit snugly, or it doesn't close snugly. So, the reviews are not stellar, but they're somewhat decent. But again, it's so cheap. I could see, just experimenting for $10 for one of these things. But they come in a wide variety. They also have something called the premium synthetic leather notebook case. Comes in brown and black, and that's $10.36. Let's see what the description is here. Basically says it's a synthetic leather case with a securable padded lid. So there's like a clasp to this one. And it's not a smart case. It looks almost like a nice leather, binder case with a clasp. And, it looks like it'll really keep it padded and safe. So, this one's only $10.36. So check it out. I know, we'll talk about other cases out there, but these cases are really cheap. And in the past, I've been very happy with my purchases from MonoPrice. And I guess they also have, for the original iPad, the first generation iPad, they also have cases. And I'm just looking here at a selection of silicone cases for the iPad in black, blue, clear, pink, smoke, and they're as cheap as $3.29 for one. So they have pretty wide selection. They have also screen protections, and if you just check on the internet, MonoPrice has a good reputation for not ripping people off. It says here they have a 30-day money-back guarantee, no restocking fee, easy return. So, I don't know. Check it out. Okay, so in terms of new apps that are out, one that caught my eye and I've been playing with my kids is, I guess, released by Marvel, which is the big comic strip company, because it's called Captain America Sentinel of Liberty, and it's a 99-cent app that works, I guess it works on the iPhone as well as the iPad. It's a universal app, and it's coming out because there's the Captain America movie. And I played around with it, and I'll do some screen recording here if you're looking at the video podcast to give you a sense of it. Okay, so here is the Captain America icon, and there's different levels and battlefields and stuff, and I'm on level 3 now. So basically, it's a game. It gives you instructions on how to move Captain America along and go by different obstacles, and you can do stuff like punch people who challenge Captain America, and it's a pretty big download, and the visuals and the graphics are pretty impressive. It's you jump over hurdles, and there's a lot of animation, and to make him run, you have to sort of push him in a big line, and you can jump up over articles or obstacles by pushing up. You can go slither under rocks. Here I'm going over a log, and then you can fight some bad guy by just punching, using your finger to tweak him. It's not particularly complex. You're trying to go over obstacles and devices and beat bad guys and climb over things. Here I'm jumping over a bad guy. For my son's not that old. He seems to like it a lot. We just started playing around with it. So it's an interesting game. It's only 99 cents. I think kids are going to like it. So for 99 cents, I think it's a worthwhile app. It gets kids into the spirit of Captain America. I haven't figured out all the layers, but I would say, look, this is a released by a serious comic company, Marvel. So it's it's not bad. So check it out, 99 cents in the store. Okay, so another app came out this week for the iPad that's kind of gimmicky and caught my eye. It's called Stockpeek, Stockpeek, and it's 99 cents, and it's basically a finance app. But what caught my eye is this. Stockpeek claims to be the first and only financial app designed to interact with the iPad 2 smart cover. And, the smart cover is this sort of cover for the iPad 2 that bends over and has a magnet on it. So the iPad goes on when you lift the lid and goes off when you shut it. So basically in this financial app, they have a picture here which shows the concept is that you could keep like one horizontal edge where the lid opens close to you. And they're saying that during a meeting, you could just pick up the little part of the ledge and there'll be this cool financial data at the bottom of the screen so you could peek at it during the meeting without opening up the whole app. Now, to me, that's kind of gimmicky, right? Aren't people going to see that you're lifting your lid? I mean, is that really a major selling point? I mean, it's an interesting gimmick. I've never seen anybody market an app this way that allows you to peek under the lid. I wonder if there's going to be other apps that similarly take advantage of the smart cover and allow you to just sort of peek under the lid and see like a little bit of the screen. So I'm not saying you should buy this app. I'm just pointing out that it has sort of an innovative marketing. Other than that, it seems like a basic financial app. It has, your basic financial data. You can track 55 pre-configured world indexes. You have unlimited stocks in your watch list. You can have real-time and delayed quotes, symbol information, but there's a lot of other apps that do that for free, like Yahoo Finance. So unless you really want this sort of peeking feature to peek under the smart cover, I don't know if I would recommend getting this financial app. Okay, another financial related app, I guess that was updated recently, that's interesting, is the Swipe credit card terminal. And this is similar to what Square is doing, except this is by another company called App Ninjas, and it's a 99-cent app. And basically, it's a free credit card swiper. And, it gives, well, it's not free, it's 99 cents. But basically, you can process credit cards. So you have to get an account, and you need a merchant account to process credit cards. If you don't have one, they'll offer one with the best deal around, and you can swipe credit cards. They'll send you for free, I guess, the credit card swiping device that like hooks up to the iPad. So this is clearly competing with Square, which is another credit card processing app that works with a hardware device that connects to the iPad. So it features signature capture. You can have them capture their signature on the app. So if you're a vendor, or if you've got a business and you want to see something other than the Square app and the Square device, check out the Swipe Pro app. I guess maybe there's a free version too, but I'm looking at the 99 cents version. So it's a it's a credit card processing app, and you got to set up an account if you want to use it. Okay, so if you want, I talked about this before, if you want to turn the iPad into your phone and ditch your iPhone or other phone and just have the iPad be your phone, that might sound like a crazy idea, but maybe it's not such a crazy idea, because if you're like me, you bring your iPad around everywhere. So I'm bringing around my iPad everywhere, and I also have 3G connectivity through AT&T, which costs like $25 a month, and if I could turn it into a phone, I could save a lot of money. I mean, I'm paying like $70-$80 for the iPhone every month plus a data plan, and if I could just make the iPad into a phone, that'd be a way to save money. Well, one app and service that some people like is called Line2. And the Line2 app is free, and it turns your iPad into a phone. And basically for a monthly, so the app is free, and for a monthly fee of $9.99, you get a phone number, an actual phone number, and you can, I guess, call anywhere in the United States and receive calls on your phone number. So it's pretty cool. So, I downloaded it, so let's check it out. Okay, so this is the Line2 app. When you download it, it's actually an iPhone app, but you can go to full screen and it works. And if you don't have a phone number or an account already, you just say, it gives you actually, I think, a few days free trial. So I'll say, pick a number. So it says, let's pick a number. So I'm going to pick a state. I'm going to pick New York. And here we go. Let's say New York. And I'm going to press select. And then it's going to give me an area code. So I'm going to pick a nice area code. It doesn't give you the famous 212 area code, but I'm going to pick 646 area code. And boom, it gives me a new number, 646-783-0785. And so I go next. And there you would fill out your name, email address, and you'd be able to sort of make your own calls from this. Okay, so I created an account, and it says Line2, welcome, an important tip. Apparently you cannot use it to make 911 calls. It says in an emergency you should use another phone to make an emergency call. And then it asks you to have a forwarding number. When Line2 isn't running, it can forward calls to another number. And I'm not gonna, I could use the number that we have for maxfuture.com. So let's try that. Okay, so you have to put the second number in there. So I'm going to check it out. I'm going to try calling one of my other lines and see how it works. This is actually the Max Future hotline. And it's dialing. Okay, so I'm leaving a voicemail on Max Future. It's bizarrely putting the name of somebody who I don't know, but it is connecting and it is making a voicemail, and it's on speakerphone. So it looks just like a phone, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool service. So if you're looking to make calls, I guess at the beginning it's free for a few days, but it does turn your iPad into a phone. So let's see what it says here. It says, welcome to Line2. Your number is 646-783-0785. So that's the line for Max Future for Line2 if you want to leave a voicemail for Max Future. So it's kind of cool. Anyways, check it out if you're looking to make your iPad or iPad into a phone. Okay, so another app you might want to check out that came out recently, it came out on July 13th, is a cooking app. And it's called The Great British Chef's Recipes HD by Great British Chef. And the description is that it has, I guess, recipes from 12 chefs, 15 Michelin stars, 180 recipes in one app. Now, the app costs $6.99, and it's rather large in data size. It's 339 megabytes. And it looks kind of interesting if you're into cooking, because it has these 12 of Britain's most creative and awarded chefs, and has stunning recipes. And the iPad really does look like it's an amazing cooking tool, because you could prop it up in the kitchen, and, look at the recipes and figure out how to do the cooking. So there's a video profile of the chefs and their restaurant information and videos that show you how to do the cooking. So, it's a little pricey, but it seems to be significant. Now, it says here that there's 180 beautifully photographed recipes, including canopies, starters, mains, desserts, petite fours, with ingredient lists, cooking times, equipment. What else? You can add notes against recipes if you wish to add your own personal touch. And you can share your recipes with your friends via email, Facebook, and Twitter. So it has social networking built in. It has, as I said, the backgrounds and the various chefs. Now, I've never heard of these chefs, but I guess they are famous in the culinary world. They include Tom Akins, Francis Atkins, Pascal Assignac, Danielle Clifford, Simon Hulston, Nuno Mendez, Nathan Outlaw, Sean Rankin, James Summerin, Agnar Sverason, Marcus Waring, and Martin Wishart. And then there's also a how-to films, and also you have an easy shopping list where you can combine your recipes and view the ingredients by aisle. So, it looks like a pretty good cooking app. And, if you're really going to use it, it seems like $6.99 is not that expensive. So you might want to check it out. Okay, so another free app that you might want to check out that I guess came out recently is one by the cosmetics company Sephora, and it's a free app, and I guess the whole point of the app is to get you to buy Sephora products. But if you are into cosmetics, if you have a girl in your life, or somebody who's into beauty, it's kind of interesting. Let's take a look at the app. You've got a home button, and you get the Sephora sign. This social, you can get top news regarding nail art of the week. And let's see, if you swipe, all sorts of Sephora related news. And there's a beauty report. Let's see, downloading. Well, let's skip the beauty report. Let's go to the virtual mirror. So you select a how-to video and watch it while you follow along. So this is interesting. So basically, there's a mirror. I'm not going to look in here in the mirror, but basically where my hand is here, that's where the mirror is. And you watch the video. Now this is interesting. You watch the video. Let's see how this works. I'm flipping this around. Let's see. Well, you basically watch a video, and then there's a mirror at the same time, and you can I guess watch. It goes to portrait. It goes to portrait mode, and you can watch the video. Doesn't seem to work. Well, the whole point of it is you can watch a video on how to put makeup on, and look at yourself in the mirror as you do it. There's there we go. It's a little buggy, the program. So you watch like a YouTube video, and then at the same time you have like this mirror that allows you to like follow along. So look, it's free, and for a kid, it might be worth it. So, again, it's a free app. The whole point of the app is, I guess, is to get you to buy and shop. And so there's a button that takes you to the Sephora store where you can, I guess, peruse. It's a little slow, the app. I'm on a high-speed Wi-Fi, but it's a little slow. Here we go. Here's the Sephora store. You can buy all sorts of cosmetics. So, maybe we'll see more and more companies doing this, creating their own sort of unique apps to sell their products that are interactive, that are interesting. So, you might want to check it out. Okay, another app that caught my attention via stylish iPadapps.com, which is a Tumblr website, it's a free app called Magic Puzzles. And it's not completely free because you could do in-app purchases of different puzzles for $1. But you do get a free version, and it comes with 4 levels of complexity, 7 times 6, which are 42 pieces. So it's a puzzle game. It's a puzzle board game. You can do 9 times 8, which is 72 pieces. You can have a 143-piece game and also a 288-piece game. And you can move the parts in groups, easy preview, rotate pieces to fit the right place. So it's called Magic Puzzles by XIMAD. So, I downloaded it. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so let's launch Magic Puzzles. It's got a nice icon. So let's, I guess it starts off in an easy place. So let's play, and it looks pretty straightforward. Let's do beginner, and I guess it gives you different art scenes. I'm going to try beginner times 42 and go start, and let's see what happens. You can drag the pieces around. You could double tap to rotate. You've got scroll to switch, and there's an in-app advertisement, so maybe that's how they make their revenue. So let's see, how do we start this game? I just double clicked. Oh, so here are the puzzles on the right side. So you drag them. No. I guess one idea is to just drag a lot of these pieces onto the board. And I guess you're looking for the corners. That's one way. Here's a corner. So I'm going to put the corner there. That's easy. Let's see. It's got this sort of music, like classical music in the background. So what I would suggest is it's free, and it looks like you get some puzzle ability with it for free. So you might want to check it out. Huh. How do you... Well, anyways, it's interesting. I don't know if I like the music always playing in the background. You can probably shut that off in settings. But this is probably like the first board puzzle game I've ever checked out. I'm not sure if I would find it easy to do this. It seems a lot harder than a regular board game. Oh, there's a magnifying glass, and you can see the overall picture and where things go. That sort of makes it easy in terms of where you think the pieces should go. So, it's very rudimentary. It's got in-app advertisement, but again, it's free. So if you're looking for a puzzle game to do on your iPad, this could be it. So check it out. Okay, so another app that you may want to download, which is free, and right now it's ranked as the #1 free app in the App Store for the iPad, is called HowStuffWorks for iPad, and it's from I guess the HowStuffWorks website, HowStuffWorks.com. And basically, the app allows you to access over 40,000 articles, view 12,000 videos, including stuff from the Discovery archives, and there's over 1,000 quizzes containing over 30,000 questions. So it's a very good educational app. And you can also listen to audio podcasts in the app. Listen to over 2,000 audio and video podcasts. And, there's all sorts of interesting stuff. It's almost like a rich encyclopedia of HowStuffWorks.com. So let's take a look at it. I downloaded it onto my iPad. Okay, so this is the icon HSW HD, and when you launch it, I'm going to select Do Not Use Push Notifications, and it has a sort of a faux leather binding, and there's a prominent ad at the bottom of the page. So How Stuff Works has advertising in it, and I guess that's how it makes money. So it's organized in the top left. You have a section, a settings button. Doesn't seem to work. Let's see. I'm tapping on it. Oh yeah, there it goes, and a window pops up. So you can adjust font size. You can log into your Facebook and Twitter account. You can rate the app. You can activate notifications. Let's see. So at the beginning you have different modules. So you have different videos. I guess the most interesting stuff comes to the home page. You can scroll up, and it's almost like the different stories are tacked on to some paper. So it's an interesting visual. Let's see. You have if you click a page button, you've got adventure section, and you've got destination, outdoor activities, survival. I don't know if the and then you hit another button with headphones on it, and you've got shows. So you have all the How Stuff Works shows. For example, you have Stuff You Should Know, Stuff You Missed in History Class, Brain Stuff, Tech Stuff. Let's click Tech Stuff. So we'll click Tech Stuff, and you have different episodes of Tech Stuff, and you have posts, I guess, from... Now, I'm not too thrilled with the user interface here. I think they're trying to be cute by having graph paper in the background, and I'm not overall thrilled with the user interface. I think they're trying to make it too gimmicky, but it's a free app. There's a quiz area that's looks like a dice, and let's see. You have something called the Sex Drive quiz. That's the most popular. New Stuff Green Cooking quiz. And you can scroll left to right, name the price, Star Wars. So, this is the #1 free app right now. So you might want to check it out. It's a way to get the content from the show that's been, I guess, a big hit. Here's a section on the Sphinx. Did the Egyptians really build the Sphinx? And so basically, it's just like all the content from this website and TV show are just poured into here. Again, I don't think the user interface is that great, and the ad protruding through the bottom is kind of intrusive, but it's free, and so you're getting all this free content, so you might want to check it out, How Stuff Works. Okay, so finally, if you are into jailbreaking your iPad or iPhone, I want to alert you there's an interesting website called tweakweek.com. It's spelled tweakweek.com. And it looks like Ryan Petrick, who has some of the great jailbreak apps on the iPad, like Screen Recorder, Display Recorder, and Display Out, and others. He has this website, and I guess you can go to it from your iPhone or iPad. And basically, he wants to have an open source tweak. And you could check out, now these are, risky things to put on your iPad because they're basically beta software. So this website it's a repository for beta software. So if you want to get these sort of test tweaks to your iPad if it's jailbroken, according to the website, you open up Cydia, you tap the Manage tab, you tap Sources, you tap Edit button, you tap the Add button, and then you type the following rpetri.ch/repo, and you tap Add Source. And according to him, this repository contains beta software and is for testing purposes only, and you can donate with PayPal. So basically, he wants a tweak a day for a week. So in week 1, which started on June 1, something was put up called Diet Bar, which puts navigation bars on a diet. And if you click on it there, you go to GitHub, which is a developer's site. But I mean, there's some very interesting tweaks here. For example, there's something called Page Pusher, which has page-styled app animations. There's Split Mail, which is a split-style iPad mail app and portrait. There's some Read Later action, which allows you to submit articles to Instapaper via Action menu. Let's see. Let's jump around in week 3. There's something called multi-slide. You can slide back and forth to launch apps. There's something called Trick Slide, where you can hide the slide to unlock knob. And, you know, there's all sorts of tweaks here. So look, if you're truly adventurous, I would not do this unless you're comfortable bricking or having problems with your iPad. But if you've jailbroken your iPad and you want to be a little adventurous, you could check out these tweaks that are sort of beta tweaks that Ryan Petrick has collected. Again, the website is tweakweek.com, and in it are instructions on how to go into Cydia to get these tweaks. So check it out. Okay, thanks for listening to the iPad podcast. This is Lex at maxfuture.com. And again, this is episode 64, recorded on Sunday, July 24th, 2011. And again, if you enjoy this podcast or video podcast, please give it a nice rating in the iTunes store. It helps people find this chit-chat-free podcast where we just try to cover iPad-related stuff. Again, this is Lex. And again, if you want a Google Plus invitation, just email me at maxfuture@gmail.com. I've already sent invitations for a number of people, but I think it's a great service, this Google Plus service that Google has. It's like a combination Facebook and Twitter. And if you want an invitation, let me know, and I'll send you one through email, and that's how you get in. So again, thanks for listening, and see you next week.